Hello wonderful developers, and welcome back to a new session about Aeron. This time we're going to talk about relatively complex data structures and how to work with them, persist them, aggregate them, and return them to your clients, and also how to decode them from the client side. Before we go away, please don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the bell for notification, share with your friends. It definitely keeps me motivated to keep doing these videos. Are you excited about the session? I know I am, so let's go. What do I mean about complex data structures? When we look at the lottery template, in the source lottery info, there is this struct, which is basically packing together the data that will be stored in the lottery. So we have here the token identifier, like the price, it's a big unit ticket left, how many tickets you can still have, deadline. So it's relatively complex. What is also very important is this like whitelist, which contains a vector of like managed addresses. And going further to the Rust template, in the initialization, when you actually start the lottery, sorry, not the initialization, when you start the lottery, you're supposed to pass all this data to the endpoint. And just to dig in through what is actually like calling internal meta start the pool, and then continue, and then finally start lottery. There's a bunch of checks. You need to have this and that and that. I'm not going to go into details about it. What is very important for us, like at the end, okay, we creating the lottery, an instance of the lottery. What we're doing here, we set the lottery in the persistence. And if we go to the data store that actually sets, so it's this one, we see that this is how you set it. Oh, actually that's also like another point that is important when we're actually setting the lottery. We find out here that is bound, the key for the lottery would be that the lottery name, because this one is being passed as a parameter. So this one gets passed as a parameter, and then the actual lottery is going to be persisted in the storage. And how this is called is it's like this. So lottery name, this becomes the key, and then we set the info. So this one, the actual instance that we create here is going to be persisted and tied to this key. Now, what pointed me to do this tutorial is basically for a couple of weeks now, this message here in Elrond developers Telegram group. It's pointing us that public IP requests will be capped at 50 per minute per DApp, decentralized application, starting with February 15. We already passed February 15. And yes, Aeron public API will always be free to use and for all the products, but you have to imagine that it's not sustainable that every application that creates that it's supposed to run and make use of the Aeron blockchain could just query the blockchain like billions of times a second from all the different places of the world. It needs to be a little like more order in your code and how much you want to query the lottery. So let's just say that you have running a very successful business, and in this tutorial template can literally run like thousands of lotteries. It's in the at the moment. Another point that was a good indication that maybe this will be of interest to other developers is, like, say that you're consuming this blockchain API from a different environment. Right now it's relatively good support for Java, but JavaScript, but not so much for the other applications. If you're consuming an let's say that you have like an iOS application or a native Android application, you don't get very good support. So it makes very good sense to just implement a microservice and just route through your microservice your request. But if you employ this strategy, you're going to find out that your microservice is limited to like 50 transactions. So how would you be able to do this if you're like a lone wolf developer like I am? Well, the idea that I have in mind, and already proven that it works, is to don't shy away from like using microservices to provide views over the blockchain in your smart contracts, but you can query. So this, for example, here, this lottery info, they are being stored and tied by the lottery name. But what you can do, you can create a view that where you pass a list of lottery names, and then you decode the entire list, and the contract, you're only going to call the contract only one time. And you're just going to decode this and then just cache the data on the server side, and just do push notifications in case you want for your clients and so on. I didn't have time to wrap everything up, and basically this is, I will put comments in the YouTube for like the current point in my where this tutorial is relevant, so you get the current snapshot. And in this version of it, as you can see, there's some modification, but it's very well heavily inspired from the lottery template, but a couple of modifications. The ones that I pointed out here, the lottery is using a vector in order to be able to read and compile a bunch of this. Is going to get much easier for you if you use a managed vector. And here for the token ID managed buffer. So the tournament identifier, that's like the name. So what I did is not even here what I'm storing. So we're done with this. I'm just going to close it and not. This is my data structure. So in this commit that I'm going to share, this is the layout. So that's my data structure. Things to point out. This one, maybe you can get away without storing it, but I find it nicer that you can just iterate over because when you pack the result in a list, you want to know what this data was tied to, and it's way easier to just like also place the tournament ID. And in case you're actually returning a list of this data structure, it's going to become way easier for the consumer libraries to decide which one's which. And this is relatively simple. So we have like the create tournament endpoint, and we do have the tournament info that passes the endpoint that passes the tournament info information, and also the get tournament info list. And this is the heavy lifter. It's a small piece of code, but man, it's really useful because it will help you reduce significantly. If you have your server side set up in a certain way, you can just reduce tens of thousands of times the number of calls that your server will need to hit. I mean, if your client, if you're only doing an application and only like the client side is doing application, it's relatively simple to think of implementing a view like this. But even so, this will reach at some point like a limit on the contract side. So like, don't bombard your contract with like tens of thousands of requests, even if they're done from like totally different clients. Just build your cache infrastructure, use this methods that can aggregate data that is relevant to your clients, and then just provide that view. So this one, what it does, it needs a list of managed var args, basically the IDs of the tournament, and what it returns, it returns a managed vector of like tournament info. and then that's it. Like, this code is pretty simple, and yes, this is my empty, I'm initializing like an empty list. I'm going through the IDs of the tournaments that are being passed to me. Okay, you want to see the data of these tournaments, and just like push them onto the list, and then I'm returning the list. I had a couple, also have some snippets here. You see the tournament info. Let's just initialize this in memory. Sorry. I need to go to interactions, so to load these methods. Already this one is gonna provide us. So what I mean, like, you see, this is the response. You don't want to decode this by yourself, and also we're gonna talk about how to decode information. But just to continue, also we have, I'm trying to build this one. There's a bug in erdpy at the moment. Even if I run, it's gonna say, I don't know, like, these are the variables that I pass to erdpy. Say like, give me this tournament, but here is like, let's just look at the first tournaments. Like, for some reason erdpy drops my prefix, and it thinks like, okay, this is a number, like, I don't know, non-hex, and it just doesn't know. But fear not, I will, once I figure out this, I will like update the code. But we do have in our code in interactions. So if I'm just going into the microservice. So yeah, when we deal with JavaScript, IntelliJ, probably I'm gonna review that one. So this is no, I don't want the entire thing. I only want the microservice. Sorry, I need to go one more time. Yeah, here it makes more sense. Let's close this. We don't need them for now. And let's demonstrate this for a little bit. I have here in the README this line. It will help you. So one thing that if you clone this, what you need to do, just install the libraries. Just navigate to the microservice and do yarn install. Just to make sure that you have everything. Yeah, I do have, but it's you need this. And then use this from my notes. Right, these are just random notes from like everywhere that I pick up. But this line, it will start the serve mod. And once this one starts, let's go into the code. So you see is a bunch of imports, but basically is using Express. So what we're doing here, we listening on a, so we created, we say, yeah, you're gonna listen on this port. If you want to call and do and play with it, you can just create your own endpoints and do stuff. But just to, this helped me out during development because we just like automatically load it in case I was changing files. So what I'm doing here, I'm getting the tournament info list. So let's just go to the end of this file where we actually, let's make this bigger. When we read it, we don't need the Telegram anymore. So the get terminal info list, this is how you can just read information from your tournaments. And let's just look at it. Just this is you need a provider, you instantiate the provider. There's also an address. This was done from deploying the tournament. Well, actually, let's go through into the whole flow, how you can just replicate this and what everything that you need to do. So the things that you will need, just clone this project, build the contract. So your erdpy contract build, and then initialize load at the specific commit. I'm sorry about this. I need to stop. All right, so upload this at a specific commit. I'm gonna really down in front, and then you need to run the following endpoints. Deploy. Let's just deploy it again. I know that. Let's make sure. Then load them in memory. So interact. Where am I at? Yeah, it should just navigate to smart. Sorry, the smart contract, and here in interaction and devnet snippets. So that's, you have the method, so you deploy the contract. We've been through this in other tutorials. We're going to really run through, and this is the smart contract address. There's no need for this one. Also plays a lot with the NFTs, and you can the other one's method, so there's really no need of anything. That's it. And once you go back to your microservice, you can just update this method here. And now if I update, this one doesn't have like it's gonna throw errors because it does not have these tournament IDs. So just persist them and create these tournament IDs. We do have in our checkout module, you see, like create tournament, and also our interactions. Where's the other interactions? Create tournament. So we're gonna run one because this contract is going to query these two tournaments with only one view. It's like get tournament less. So we need to create them in our contract first. The first one, I need to load again because interactions. So now we're going to create the first tournament inside our contract, and let's just wait for it to finish. Come on, come on. Please go faster. Just create the tournament already. Yeah, DevNet is not as fast as testnet or mainnet, of course. And we have our tournament created. So finally, so that's what the one tournament created. Now we need to create the second one. We need to use the same IDs. We need to again interactions and create the second tournament, and just also look at this one. Well, until this one goes, what we can do, we can load the information from the first tournament, and just to make sure that everything is fine. So get tournament info, only for one info it works, also in the snippets, and we can read that one. Apparently also the second one updated. We can, let's just load also this information again and get also the second tournament. Yes, this one also works. So now moving back to our microservice snippet, and if we load this again, we should be able to query the server side, and there you go, no more errors, because actually, so as what I've done here right at the end of the I'm listing the tournament and the price for the tournament, and let's just see what you need for this. So what you need when you're actually compiling the contract and you're building the contract, what it does into the out folder, it creates the WASM, and also it creates your ABI file. So you need to take this and provide to the front-end developers so they make a use of this. This is copied in my microservice. So if you go to the microservice folder, so I've added it here. So you see my contract ABI file. So let's continue with through our method here. So get terminal info list. You need the provider. You need to know what address is your contract address. You're loading the ABI registry, this file that is being generated by your smart contract, and this is how you do it. And when you actually create the instance of your smart contract API, you need to pass in a parameter. This is actually the name of your contract. So you take it from here. If you go to the ABI, oh, actually I can show it to you. If you go to your ABI file, not like my contract, the name. So that's where you get it. You set this in your Rust source code, but let's just not deviate. Oh, sorry. Go back. So you're loading and you're creating an instance of this contract. You need to provide the address and actually the ABI smart contract API interface. And what you need is to build your interaction. So basically what we need, if we go to our Rust template, what is it? Source, not template, smart contract. So the get tournament info list, what this one needs a list of IDs. And this is how I'm building that list. And then you need to run the query and then interpret the query response. And then finally here, so the rest of them, they're just like some informations that I've done. So you need to select this field, the first value, that's the one that will hold the information for your contract. And then from there, depending on like how your data structure is set up, you keep drilling down the data structure. So what I've done here, I think I've listed you see this is the first tournament and then the second tournament, because I think so look, I've listed the entire list, and that's one it is. And then so I'm going in each list and I'm just selecting the information, and this is how you read the buffer. So this one, you select your tournament ID from the tournament. This is like a buffer, and if you want the string value, you just say my variable to string. It's a bit different for numbers. This is a big number, and if you want the actual base 10 representation, this is how you do it. It's just like you get your big number to fixed, and then you'll get your base 10 representation of it. And then yeah, that's just the end of it. And basically that wraps it up. I hope this was useful for you, and I know it's not very detailed. I just run you through very fast through the current tutorial, but I'm not gonna have that much time this weekend and next weekend for a fact. So I think it's better to just have something out that is useful for the community instead of like just waiting until it's perfect. So I'm out, and see you all next time. Bye.